Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani. Hope all is well. Listen, we're going to dive right into another great conversation this morning. We're talking about infidelity. This is the place where you come every single day to learn more about infidelity and how to recover. If you're on the verge of divorce and you want to stop that and get to a better place, this is the place that you need to be. So make sure you do me a favor. Let the community know that we are live. You can like, share, and subscribe. We're talking today about the 9 warning signs of infidelity. How do you know? How can you begin to know? What should you be mindful of? What should you begin to look out for if you feel like something's just not right, okay? Because oftentimes we have these urges, we have these feelings, we have these thoughts, and so we question ourselves. And so we want to walk you through what that looks like so that you could be keenly aware of what's happening in your home. But before we get started, this Saturday, we have our Together We Stand Communications Masterclass. If you have not registered, please go to the website. Actually, go to the description here. There's a link in the description. You can register today. It is only $97. It's going to be 4 hours of intensified information that will be transformational. So please go ahead and do that. We would love to have you join us. Okay, guys, we're in this conversation on the 9 signs. We're going to go through this comprehensively. Sign number 1. The first sign that there could be a potential affair or betrayal that you need to be mindful of is privacy. Now, let's talk about what that looks like. When we're talking about privacy, oftentimes a spouse will engage in a form of privacy or secrecy. They become stealth. They become clandestine. They begin to do things without your knowledge. So whether that be taking private phone calls. You ever notice how every time that the phone rings, they have a tendency to leave the room? They have this tendency to put somebody on pause or let the phone go to the voicemail, and then we'll leave, and then we'll call that person. And they're gone for quite some time. You may hear a little bit of mumbling because they're not too far away, or they've left the building altogether in order to engage in a conversation. When they come back, who was that? Who are you on the phone with? Oh, no, somebody from work, or oh, just a friend. And so there's always an intentional effort to leave the scene to engage in a conversation. Another sign of privacy happens to be an individual who always tends to stay up a little bit later. They always happen to be on their computer. When everyone has gone to bed, that's when they wake up and they begin to engage in dialogue and conversation. So in this particular instance, either they are engaged in some type of social media, some group chat, some forum, something that allows them access to another person, and they're doing it on what we will call off-peak hours where everyone is asleep and far away. This is an individual who will always have their phone near them, right? It's attached to them. It's in their back pocket. It's in their front pocket. It's in their purse. It's tucked underneath their pillow, right? They sleep with it in between their legs. Like they have almost like an obsessiveness when it comes to this device, because this device gives them access to a world that you are not a part of. And so through hidden apps and things of that nature, and that's the other thing, secret apps that they're communicating with. Some people have gotten so savvy that they're not going to pick up the phone and have conversations, because all of those transactions, if you will, those receipts are available. All you need to do is call the phone company and get the records, and you can see the volumes of phone calls, the amount of hours spent on the phone, the amount of texts back and forth. So there are all types of secret apps that people use, whether it be WhatsApp. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But these are forms of privacy that people engage in. And when you see these things, it could be an indication that something is off. Let's go to the second sign. The second sign of infidelity, schedules. Now, let's talk about schedules, because, the reality is when we're working with couples, every single week that we meet, we always ask, so how was the week? Oh, busy. Everybody has a busy schedule. But it seems that oftentimes when a person is involved in a betrayal or any type of an affair, schedules begin to shift and change. Suddenly, there's more time spent away from the home, right? It seems like there are longer hours that one needs to work. I'm working late. That's the classic statement. Because I'm working late, I have to be at work because there's a project. There's hours that we have to go beyond our normal regular hours because there's a deadline we have to meet. And so what I find is that when a person uses this excuse, either they will engage in overly detailing and unpacking what they have to do so that what they're saying sounds more believable, right? Or they just give these blanket excuses. So either they're going to just throw an excuse out, or they're going to give so much detail that it's going to seem plausible, though it may not be. Another sign of schedules, right? This is an indication. We see it played out when a person's always traveling, right? They've always got a business trip. They got to go out of town again. They have these weekend meetings. There's always something going on which keeps them tied to their work or some type of extracurricular. And oftentimes these are nothing more than cover-ups or alibis for what they are ultimately doing, potentially being involved in an affair. So if there's an abrupt change to the schedule, to the normalcy that you've lived with your spouse, it could be a warning sign that something is not well. Number 3, interests, right? Interest. This is an interesting one because interests begin to change. You know, suddenly there's an increase, an intense desire for an interest that they've never had before. Okay. And oftentimes these interests that they have, these new hobbies, these new activities are things that they intentionally do not share with you. You know, I just want to have some me time. I just want to be able to, do what makes me happy. And so I'm going to the gym now. I've never done that before. Or I now have a new interest in a sport, right? And I'm going to the games. I'm being more recreational. Maybe I have a hobby now for motorcycles. And, I get on my motorcycle and I just drive. And this is something I want to do alone. Like, we have so much time together as a couple, so much time together as a family. I'm just thinking about me and what I can do for me, right? And so when there's this intensified interest in doing something new and different that does not include you, it could be an indication that something is not going quite well. I hope this is making sense. Let's go to the next one, personal habits, okay? So once again, we talked about privacy, we talked about schedules, we talked about interests. Now we're talking about personal habits, right? So personal habits, I notice that there's something different about you, right? There's this preoccupation that you have now with your personal appearance that I didn't see before. You're starting to dress a lot nicer. You're starting to smell a lot better. You're starting to groom in a more intricate way. I'm noticing details that I've never seen before. There seems to be an abrupt transformation in your style of dress. You used to be casual or bummy, t-shirt and shorts, but now it seems like you're more fashionable. Okay, when you go to work and when you go out, it just seems like you're really trying to impress. There's a unique difference there. Maybe there's a new interest to lose weight and to get in shape. So I'm noticing that you're working out a little bit more. You seem to be preoccupied with going to the gym and exercising. I'm noticing that your diet is changing. We used to have a rhythm and a pattern of eating a particular way, and now you're a lot more picky. I noticed that you're really focusing on your health, and you're losing weight, and you're slimming down, and you're feeling more confident. This is something different. Even your undergarments, you just have this new, I'm noticing lingerie that I've never seen before. Panty and bra sets. I mean, you don't wear that with me. Man, these briefs are really nice. You used to wear boxers, now you're wearing briefs. Why the shift? Why the sudden change? These are indications. These are warning signs. Now, it does not necessarily mean that someone is engaged in an affair, but it could mean that someone is engaged in an affair. And the more wise we are, the more vigilant we are, the more open to the possibilities of all these changes taking place we are, the more insight we have into what's really going on. So questions need to be asked, conversations need to be had, observations need to be made. Does that make sense? So that you can get a hold of these things. All right, guys, what we're going to do is take a quick break. I want the thoughts to begin to percolate in your mind. And I want you to begin to assess, have I experienced these things, or have I been guilty of doing these things? And it has led to the exposure of my particular betrayal. Anyway, stay tuned. We're going to go into deeper signs on the other side of this break. Stay right there.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
All right, we're back, folks. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Once again, my name is Hassani. I am your infidelity recovery specialist. If you've been struggling in your relationship, if you're on the verge of divorce, if you've experienced an affair, whether you found out about it last night, or maybe it's a year old, or maybe possibly longer than that, maybe it's been a decade, and you haven't found a place of healing and restoration. There are still questions that you have. You still haven't closed that chapter. You're struggling and in immense pain. This is the channel that you want to come to get the answers that you need, the support that you need, the guidance that you need, so that you can begin your healing process. All right, we're talking about the 9 warning signs of infidelity. We're going to go to the next one. We got to talk about the kids. We got to talk about the children, because what happens is when a person is in an affair, they are so preoccupied with what it is that they're doing and who they are caught up in, it begins to impact how one may show up as a parent. And we see all types of shifts and changes. One of the things that we can identify is that there's an inconsistency in the attention that is given to the children. So either a partner, a parent, if you will show up and all of a sudden they're very angry, right? They're just impatient. They have no patience for the kids. Like they're so focused on what they're focused on that everything's an issue and everything's a problem. And they begin to take out on their kids their frustration for whatever reason. Or we may see that pendulum shift all the way to the other side. Now there's a lavish amount of attention that they give those children. Sometimes there's a guilt that's associated with what they're doing. And when one is forced to face themselves in the mirror, realizing, what am I doing? I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a husband, I'm a father. Sometimes out of that guilt, they will give even more attention, right? They will give even more time to make them feel good about what they're ultimately doing. Sometimes when a person is so preoccupied with this particular betrayal, they begin to not notice the routines and the details of their children's lives, right? And so when it comes to school, when it comes to friends, when it comes to extracurricular, they're always forgetting, oh man, I didn't remember that. Because they're caught up in their own world, right? So their natural role as a parent to the children all of a sudden is impacted because their focus and attention is on something else. And so the children ultimately feel it. And it's been said time and time again, when you cheat on your spouse, just remember you're also cheating on your children because they are impacted by it as well. All right, the next area that we need to focus on, one of the warning signs of infidelity is money. Now, as you know, money, finances is one of the biggest challenges that people struggle with in a relationship, but there's a complexity involved with the money when there is an affair. Okay, so number one, when a person's involved in an affair, there's something called financial infidelity. So the infidelity is not just sexual, it's not just emotional, it is financial as well, because it costs money to cheat. Okay, and so it's interesting, when it's time for counseling, they don't want to pay the money to go to counseling, but they spent an incredible amount of money in the affair, but don't want to spend it on the affair recovery. So during the affair, when someone is cheating, they become less open about talking about transactions and purchases, right? Because there's an irregularity here. I'm noticing that there's purchases in these particular places and spaces that weren't there before, but they don't want to talk about it. All of a sudden, there are checks missing from the family bank account. Where is check 30004? It's because maybe the spouse that you're cheating on is the one that manages the finances. And now they begin to see some inconsistencies and some things that just don't align. And all of a sudden questions are asked. And this is why oftentimes some people, when they're in the midst of an affair, they've made the decision to now take over the managing of the finances, because now they can cover up, they can hide, they can cover their tracks, and their spouse is not aware of anything. So now they're paying the bills. They're redirecting the mail in terms of where things are going, right? Because there are questionable credit card charges and debit charges and ATM charges. It's like, why did you take $800 or $200 or $50 out of the ATM? You're at this location, you're at that location. Like, everything we do is online. Everything we do is with a card. Like, we don't use cash. So how do you begin to explain this? So what happens is the transactions begin to expose. And so this is why people try to do their best to cover up the tracks and manage the finances so their spouse is not aware. We notice that when there's an affair, a person is spending more time at restaurants. All of a sudden, what is this hotel bill about? When were you here and who were you with? And I don't remember us going anywhere. And what about that motel? And wait a minute, there's a purchase at Victoria's Secret. I haven't purchased anything for a while. And what is this gift? And what is, like, chocolates? I don't even eat that. Like, all of a sudden, these items start appearing, which begin to expose. A lot of times people take their money and they use it to invest in their own attractiveness, to increase their desirability, because now I have someone to dress for. Now I have someone to please visually, and I'm going to invest that money once again back in myself so that I can draw the attention and the affection of the person that I'm in this affair relationship with. Let's go to the next one, sex and affection. Now, isn't it interesting? We're talking about the warning signs of an affair. Now, when dealing with just a marriage, just the regular relational dynamics, we always talk about the 5 things that couples struggle with the most. Let's talk about it. Sex, communication, finances, in-laws, and parenting. And already in these warning signs, we see how the parenting to the children, right? The children are affected. We see how finances are affected. we ultimately see how communication is affected. And now we're talking about sex and affection. So as it relates to sex and affection, we got to talk about this. Oftentimes, see, this is where it gets confusing because there are a lot of assumptions about how sex plays itself out in the midst of an affair. And so we can't take a very simplistic approach to this. There's complexity involved in this because in many respects, sex may increase. I'm in an affair with another person, but my sexual desire increases for my spouse. So because I'm in a passionate affair, I bring that passion into my bedroom. Man, I've been longing for this for a long time. I'm going to bring this in. I'm going to bring this desire in. And so now it's just like, wow, where is all this coming from, right? So the spouse doesn't know. They're excited possibly about the fact that things are on an upswing, an uptick, but they're not aware that there's an affair happening with another person. Sometimes new techniques are brought into the bedroom. We've never done that before. Wow, this is new and different. But it may be influenced by the affair that you're engaging with another person. Because whenever two people engage in sex, it's always going to be uniquely different to the person that you're with. So we're bringing in newness. And so we may think that that's a great thing, but now it's like, well, wait a minute. What is all this? What is this position? What is this angle? What is this? Like, well, hold on. What's going on here, right? Because we're breaking up the natural pattern and rhythm that we've engaged in for quite some time. So that can be a giveaway. Sometimes on the opposite end, there's an avoidance of sex, right? And so now the person who's in the affair, their focus is so much ingrained in another person that it takes away the natural affection and desire that you should have for your spouse. So now there's like, you become repelled, right? There's an aversion that you have to having sex with your spouse. So now you've entered into a sexual drought. Right? Now you've entered into a sexless marriage. And a sexless marriage, by definition, is not a marriage that has zero sex, but very little sex. I've said this before. It's just like a person who's legally blind. It doesn't mean that you can't see anything. You can see movements and shapes and things from a distance, but it's very blurry. Okay, is very difficult. Likewise, when it comes to a sexless marriage, it doesn't mean that there's no sex, but it's very little sex. So statistics would suggest when a couple is having sex anywhere between once a month or as low as 10 times a year, that's an indication that you're in a sexless marriage. Generally speaking, even outside of the bedroom, there's just less affection. So if I'm naturally an affectionate person, I begin to touch less. I begin to distance myself. There's fewer romantic kisses. There's fewer romantic gestures. See, all of that stuff is now moving away from my home, and now I'm engaging it with someone outside of my home. So sex ultimately is impacted, which is one of the warning signs. Then we have to talk about the next one, personal interactions with the spouse. Now, I hope this is helping, guys, as we go through this. Personal interactions with the spouse. What does that mean? Oftentimes, we can see, once again, a shift here. Either a person is very rejecting, very off-putting, doesn't want to be around, doesn't want to be involved, or they become very critical, very judgmental. They're always pointing out faults and flaws and things in their spouse that they've never pointed out before. See, a lot of times people become angry while they're in an affair. They become very critical and judgmental while they're in an affair. It's just like, where's all this coming from? We were such in a good space, and now you're treating me like I'm the enemy. What's going on? Well, the emotions that have been heightened for that affair partner have been diminished at the same time for the spouse. Does that make sense? So the patience I give this person, I become less patient when it comes to my spouse. The grace that I give this person, now I become very short-tempered when it comes to my spouse. So we see a pulling away as we're pulling towards, emotionally, towards another person. But then on the flip side, some people, interestingly enough, become more clingy. So now they're around more. They're up under you more. Now, whether this is being done as a cover, because I don't want my spouse to think that I'm in an affair, so let me overcompensate by being clingy, by smothering, by spending time, by hugging, by kissing, by being all up in your face, so that you will never be aware of what's really going on. But on the flip side, sometimes a spouse just wants to be alone. I don't want to talk. I just want to be alone. Can I have my own space? Can I do my own thing? I just want to go for a long drive. I just want to engage in my own, like I want my own zen. I'm just doing a lot of self-care right now. I don't want to be touched. Okay? Just give me my space. I don't know. I'm just in a space where I need to focus on me right now, right? It's a cover because their time and attention and focus is on someone else. We see the classic thing. We've seen this in movies all the time. Matter of fact, there was a movie that Chris Rock starred in called Why Did I Get Married? And I remember he was falling in love with someone that he knew from back in the day, and it was consuming his time. She was showing up at work. They were going out on lunch breaks, and one night she invited him to a club, and he was just like, I'm a married man. I don't know if I can go to a club in the middle of the night. And so what happens is he comes home from work. She makes dinner. I think she made chicken, and he got into this ridiculous argument about the chicken and blew up and stormed out and left for hours. And so oftentimes a person may start arguments and storm off for a mysterious number of hours to get away, saying to themselves, I just need time to think. I need time to focus. I need time. But really, what they're doing, they're spending quality time with that affair partner. And these are the things that we ultimately see. These are the warning signs. These are the warning signs that we have to be aware of when it comes to an affair. We're going to go to the last one. This is the 9th warning sign. It represents your social life. Now let's talk about that. When it comes to your social life, this is a person who avoids including their spouse in their social world. So when I'm in a space, I'm around my coworkers. I'm around people from my neighborhood. I'm always flying solo. Where's your wife? Oh, yeah. My wife's at home. Where's your husband? Oh, yeah, he had to work. He's with the kids. Like, you're doing life alone. You create a whole new world for you to individually and personally connect to, leaving your spouse completely out. And so you avoid your spouse like the plague. You rather go out more with others than with your spouse. So you prioritize time spent with your boys, time spent with your girls. You prioritize activities spent alone than activities spent together. But oftentimes this is a cover to be involved in an affair. Those are the 9 signs, the 9 warning signs of infidelity. So I want you to give thought to those things. I want you to begin to assess your current situation. If you find yourself in this space and in this place, please reach out to us for help so that we can help navigate you through a process that will lead to your change and transformation. Listen, guys, you've been watching the Couples Academy Show. I hope you got something phenomenal out of today. Listen, before we end, I just want to give another quick announcement that this Saturday, we're having our Together We Stand Communications Masterclass. You can go right there in the description of this video and you can register. It is $97. It is going to be incredibly impactful. If you struggle with communication, this is the place that you want to be to get the answers, to get the solutions, to get the things that you need to turn your situation around. Love you guys. See you tomorrow for another great episode. Take care.